job. But the ones that aren't have to be dealt with, and you have to know that if a teacher's been disciplined, that they're no longer, disciplined seriously or had their teaching certificate taken, where or if they're still teaching in the province. And the minister herself doesn't know that today. So yes, we have to bring those reforms in. Let me just finish on this note, because there has been a discussion about merit pay for teachers in the course of this. And I think that's an idea that makes a good intuitive sense to a lot of people, right? You think, well, if you're doing a good job, you should be rewarded. If you're doing a lousy job, you should be penalized for it. And so I see the merit and principle of doing that. But any government that decides to do that, and I can tell you this from experience, is going to have to also decide how long they are willing to have public schools behind picket lines. Because that is one of those issues that might have some really positive consequences in principle. But the act of actually doing it is going to be extremely difficult. And the teachers union takes this one so seriously that we could be behind picket lines for a long time. And I think those are the kinds of very real world decisions that the government has to consideration you have to take into account when you're making decisions. I think if you want to ensure the quality of education, you start with the Teachers College. You don't start with the most confrontational thing that you could do, and you don't start with a big fight by creating big fights with the union when you don't need to. Start with the things that you can do that are fundamental and probably most important. And and then perhaps we can start talking about those other things. But I just don't think the province is going to be very well served by starting in the first 60 days by getting into a big fight with all the unions. Because if that's all you're doing is fighting with the unions, and I know because I have a fair amount of experience with that, if all you're doing is fighting with the unions, you don't have time to listen to British Columbians. You don't have time to grow the economy. You don't have time to get out there and make sure that healthcare is focused on patients. You don't have time to cut the regulatory burden. There's a whole lot of other things that need to happen that you have to have time and focus to be able to do. So that is a great question. Thank you very much.